Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to our very first Lionside chat. I'm Wendy Parsons, Vice President for Advancement here at Albright College, and I'm delighted you're joining us today. This is a new program we're launching this year for alumni and donors to engage in conversation with our college leaders to learn more about important issues here at Albright College. We're very grateful to you as members of our President's Council for your generous support. I will tell you, your gifts make a huge difference in the lives of our students and faculty and make an Albright education possible for so many. So thank you very much for being a special part of our Lion family and for joining us today. Before I introduce our panelists and begin our program, I'd like to run through some quick housekeeping items. Today's program is presented in a Zoom webinar format. There are 58 attendees in this event, but everyone's video and microphones are turned off. So you'll only be able to see myself and our panelists. So imagine yourself in an auditorium on campus viewing a stage, but here you're in the comfort of your own home. Our conversation with our panelists today will start with a series of questions from me, and then we'll open the program to your questions. Some of you sent in questions when you registered for the program. Thank you. We've incorporated them in today's program. If you'd like to ask a question anytime throughout the program, please click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You may ask a question at any time as a follow-up to what is shared or a new question. We'll address as many questions as we can later in the hour. So let's get started. It is my great pleasure to introduce our three panelists for today's Lionside chat. Our first guest speaker is Albright College's 15th president, Dr. Jackie Fetrow, who is not only a graduate of Albright College from the class of 1982, but a proud legacy as well. Her mother, Millie Folk Fetrow, graduated in 1958. President Fetrow is in her fourth year at Albright. She's also a professor of chemistry and biochemistry and serves as a mentor to Albright students through our ACRE undergraduate research program. Welcome, Dr. Fetrow. Our next guest is Provost Dr. Karen Campbell, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty. Dr. Campbell has spent more than 3 decades at Albright College teaching in the biology department. She was named the P. Kenneth Nace Chair of Biology in 1999 and took on the role of acting provost in 2018. Following the recommendation of the faculty, she was appointed to the permanent position in 2019. Welcome, Dr. Campbell. And our third guest speaker is Chief Health Officer, Dr. Samantha Wessner, Senior Vice President of Student and Campus Life. Dr. Wessner has been with Albright College for more than 20 years, having served as director of the Gable Health Center for the majority of her tenure, until being appointed vice president in 2017. Now as senior vice president, Dr. Wessner continues to see patients in the Gable Health Center. She also leads Albright's pandemic task force through the daily challenges of the corona pandemic. Welcome, Dr. Wessner. I'd like to begin with Albright's new strategic vision. We recognize how important long-term visioning and planning are to navigating short-term challenges. Earlier this year, in fact, before the pandemic arose, Albright produced a new strategic vision paper that was endorsed by both the Board of Trustees and our faculty. This new strategic vision was the result of an extensive 2.5-year review process, which we called a deep dive. This process was led by President Fetrow and President Campbell and involved many members of our college community, including faculty, staff, students, trustees, and our alumni board. Most important, this strategic vision establishes a framework for how Albright College will move forward in the next 5 to 10 years. It presents an ambitious goal for the college in 2030, which is shaped and defined by 7 strategic themes. Before we move into our conversation, I'd like to share with you that ambitious goal as stated in our strategic vision. In 2030, we envision that Albright will have a national reputation for closing the gap on education for all students of academic promise, for students to earn an affordable and high-quality degree with a strong liberal arts foundation, who are prepared to enter the workforce, who experience significant socioeconomic mobility, and who are prepared to hold fulfilling jobs across all student demographics, gender, racial, ethnic, and first generation. Wow. So to begin, I'd like to start with a question for you, President Fetro. Can you please share with our guests some background about what we learned through the deep dive process to bring us to this ambitious goal?
Certainly. Thank you. Thank you very much, Wendy. And I want to add my thanks to the participants today, the members of the Albright College President's Council. Your support of Albright College, your significant support of Albright College really matters to allow us to support the success of our students and to support the financial sustainability of Albright College, the excellence of our academic programs. The strategic vision process, what we called, as Wendy said, the deep dive process, was a really comprehensive process. It started with my listening and learning tour, in which I talked to over 800 students, faculty, staff, alumni, members of the board, the alumni board, and community members far beyond the Albright campus, members of the Reading and Berks community. I wanted to learn what people thought of Albright, what their aspirations for Albright were, and where they thought we could go. From that, we dug into a couple of key features. The first was Albright's financial model. We took a really deep dive into understanding the budget, into understanding the pieces of how the financial process across a year was put together, how tuition was set, how financial aid was done. And with the 2020 vision of hindsight, we were able to see how those pieces came together in a comprehensive whole. It allowed us to identify patterns. We also took a deep dive into our students. One of the things that we knew was for many years, retention and four-year graduation rate for our students had been declining. And we asked the question, why? And we took a very hard look at many factors that might have or could have impacted student success at Albright. What we learned was a couple of things. One, that we had gotten to the edge of where we were beginning to price ourselves outside of the Pennsylvania liberal arts college market. That led to our tuition right size in December of 2018. We also learned that there was a very close tie between student success and socioeconomic status. Albright, as you may well know, offers a very strong financial aid package for students in their first year. But our tuition increases were making it more difficult for students to be able to continue in their upper class years. With that, we repositioned some of our scholarship aid to support the upper class students. And we initiated the Advancing Lives Scholarship Fund, which we're going to talk about in a moment. Those two things already in just 2 years have shown us that, in fact, financial sustainability or financial support of upper class students, helping some of them to afford the tuition increase, has really made a difference in their success. So that, together with working on the financial sustainability across all aspects of our financial, focusing on student success, allowed us to come up with the 7 themes that are in the strategic vision paper.
Thank you, President Fetro. As a follow-up, could you also share how we will measure success in achieving this ambitious 2030 goal?
I love that question, Wendy. As a scientist, I love metrics and I love analytics. And a strategic vision only matters if you don't put it on the shelf and ignore it. You have to use it as a living document. And so one of the things we did, the first thing is our strategic vision is an emergent process. It allows new ideas to come forward and be developed. The second thing is it identifies metrics. So there's a whole set of metrics, both for 2025 and 2030, that are reasonably quantitative and for which we can then develop annual goals to make sure we are on track for each of those metrics. We are in the process now of developing the scorecards that will measure our success towards achieving those metrics. And the cabinet, myself, the cabinet, and the members of the Albright community will be watching and working very hard to make sure we both achieve and perhaps exceed the metrics that we put forward in the scorecard.
Thank you. I know the strategic vision also emphasizes one of Albright's core values, which is to provide a high quality education to students of academic promise. One of the 7 themes that this plan articulates is Albright's commitment to supporting student success. I'd like to direct my next question to you, Dr. Campbell. Can you share with us what student success means at Albright, as well as what we are doing now and plan to do in the future to support student success?
Sure. Thank you, Wendy. It's weird, but it's good to be here today. Albright has always supported student academic success from a variety of ways. Faculty, mentors, and advisors, athletic coaches, residence life staff, and also academic staff in the Academic Learning Center, the Writing Center, the library. We've always had lots of pieces in place. And what we've learned in the past few years, and especially through the deep dive, is that we need to be much more intentional in our outreach, that students are less likely to maybe a little more shy to reach out for help when they need it. And if we can be a lot more direct and overt in supporting their academic endeavors, then they're much more likely to participate and to gain some of the benefits that might be available to them. We've been helped in the past 2 years through the Title III grant. We've received $2.2 million specifically to support the academic success of entering first-year students. And so through a variety of programming that starts from orientation on and before, we've been reaching out to first-year students. They have student success coaches that keep very close ties with them. Stalking's sort of a harsh word, but it sometimes involves meeting them outside the classroom or finding them to be able to have outreach and to be able to support their academic endeavors as well. What we've learned also, though, is, as President Fetro just said previously, that academic support isn't enough. Helping students devise a vision of where they're going, working through our career development center to be able to figure out where they're going and how that might fit into the workforce and where they're heading is very important, developing that vision of where they go. And of course, financial stability needs to be part of this package as well. The Advancing Lives Scholarship has helped so many of our students to be able to bridge that gap. Even with our reset tuition, it's really difficult for a lot of our students to be here. So making sure that they can register on time, removing holds, financial holds on registration to be able to allow them to register is really important in helping them be able to step forward and to continue to make progress. So we are approaching this from a lot of different ways. Student success means a lot of different things, from adjusting to college when they first arrive, to finding success in their classes, to finding which classes they probably need to have success in, and to establishing that pathway. That's all part of our success. As our Vice President for Enrollment Management says, we're recruiting alumni, and that's the pathway that we're really trying to establish with those students.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Equally important to our students' academic success is their overall well-being and that of our entire community. Another of our strategic themes is Lifting Up Lions, which will establish initiatives that provide opportunities for students to fulfill their full potential. Dr. Wessner, could you please share with our guests what the Lifting Up Lions theme will address and some of the initiatives that fall under it?
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy, and welcome, President, Council members. It truly is a pleasure being here with all of you today. This theme is near and dear to my heart, as it is about well-being and it is about thriving. And we know that in order for us to be successful, whether it's our faculty, our staff, our students, we must be well. And we cannot worry about material things that may be hindering us from reaching our full potential. This particular theme, not only does it work with looking to 2030 to be one of the great colleges to work for, it also looks to engaging our students through volunteer opportunities in our community, and also looks to improving our students in the federal work study arena and providing employment opportunities on campus. A couple of the things that we've been working with most recently are actually having a partnership with the Spring Valley Church in order for our students to get food at their food bank. We know that college students, unfortunately, do suffer from food insecurities, and this opportunity provides a way for our students to be able to get food through the food bank. We also have a coat drive out of my office where students can come in to get coats, hats, gloves. The reality is some of our students don't have these items, and we see them walking across campus when it's cold and they don't have a coat, but now they can come to our office and get those items. One thing most recently that we've been working with the Lifting Up Lions is if students are having difficulty accessing computers or books, they can actually fill out an online form and they can share with us what their needs are. And through your generous donations, we've been able to provide our students the opportunity to obtain those items. For instance, on Thursday of just last week, one of our students reached out and stated that the whole first session of the fall semester, they were doing their work on their phone. And they reached out to us asking if we could assist them to get a computer. So on Thursday, the student filled out the form. The form comes to my office, and my assistant reached out on Friday to work with this student. And the student's response was, wow, I just filled that form out last night, and you're already calling to help me. So we'll be able, through this Lifting Up Lions initiative, to be able to assist this student with getting the books that they need and also a computer to be able to do their work for session 2 of the fall semester. It really warms our heart when we're able to provide those opportunities for our students. And when the students feel comfortable coming to us and sharing with us that they need these things in order to be successful. So again, I want to thank you for all that you're doing to assist us. This is a tremendous theme as part of this strategic vision and something that I look forward to working with very, very closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Westner. I just echo our great thanks to everyone who supported the Lifting Up Lions fundraising initiative. One of the results of the deep dive process that culminated in the new strategic vision was the development that Dr. Fetro just mentioned around our Advancing Life Scholarship Initiative, which we just launched last fall. Dr. Fetro, what is distinctive about the Advancing Life Scholarship Program, and how does it align with Albright's strategic vision?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. The Advancing Life Scholarship, you've heard a couple of us already touch on the Advancing Life Scholarship. As I said, during the deep dive process, we learned that Albright College gives a very strong financial support package to students in their first year. But previously, we did not provide additional aid in the upper class years to support tuition increases. The Advancing Life Scholarship Initiative aims to change that practice by developing an endowment, the Advancing Lives Endowment, that will allow us to support students who have financial need in their upper class years. This is a $10 million campaign currently. We are not quite halfway. This has resonated with donors, and I think with some of you who are in the audience. We're not quite halfway to reaching that goal. And we have strong confidence that we are going to meet and even exceed that goal. Already, students have been supported by this. We've already seen, we do not yet have increased four-year graduation rates because that takes 4 years to accumulate, but we're already beginning to see improved retention from year to year, which we can partly attribute to the financial increase from advancing lives. It aligns with this aligns with our strategic vision and our 2030 goal, as our goal is to remove barriers to supporting student success across all demographics. And so this is one of the important barriers that we seek to eliminate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I know that some have asked questions around the pandemic and how the pandemic is affecting our Albright community. I'd like to ask you first, Dr. Wessner, as Chief Health Officer, can you tell us a little bit about the Pandemic Task Force at Albright and share with us anything about the strategic vision that may have changed as a result of the pandemic?
Absolutely. Thank you, Wendy. So since 2008, Albright College has been working on their pandemic planning task force. The task force was first formed when we were concerned about an avian flu outbreak. And luckily that did not occur. But what we did then see was SARS and Ebola. And every novel virus that comes about allows the pandemic planning task force continue with the planning. So in January, when the coronavirus was first noted in Wuhan, China, the pandemic planning task force came back together again to reevaluate the plan that we had developed so long ago and that we had continued to work on. And we were very fortunate in that we had a solid plan that was already developed, and we needed to pivot in terms of this new virus and figure out what we were going to do. We have 25 members who sit on the pandemic planning task force, including 2 students, and they represent offices across campus. Every division is represented on the task force, and we've been meeting twice weekly since March. And the idea is to look at the college as a whole and how were we going to bring our students back together again in the fall semester in a way that was safe and healthy for the entire Albright community. So I'm very proud of the task force. We've done a great job in planning and to getting us to where we are today with this pandemic. And as you all know, things change constantly. And it would be easy to focus on the pandemic and not think about the strategic plan. However, that's not the intent of a strategic plan. So what you need to do is, as you're working the day-to-day pandemic plan, you have to continuously focus on the strategic vision and also have your entire team working on that strategic vision, because you will never get to the 2025 and 2030 goals if you're not continuing to focus on these goals and focus on the themes that have been put forth. So our teams continue to work on those goals, and we cannot at this point lose sight of that, even though we're continuing to deal with a very difficult situation in terms of the pandemic. But we'll continue to work day to day with the pandemic and keeping our eye on their strategic visions. Thank you.
Thank you. My next question is for you, Dr. Campbell. In response to the pandemic, I know we've changed the semester format at Albright, offering students the opportunity to take 2 classes at a time instead of 4, and breaking the normal 15-week semester in half with 2 7.5-week sessions. Dr. Campbell, in your work with faculty, are there new ways of learning and teaching that our faculty are adapting this year that you believe may continue to be part of the Albright educational experience in the future?
Absolutely, Wendy. As you know, the sudden switch to teaching online was not something that our faculty would have looked forward to in March. Albright's faculty come to Albright because they want to be in a classroom with students, working with them face to face, and online has always just seemed very distant. And so what's happened is that faculty have discovered that there are opportunities even with the online format that allow them to engage students in new ways. Breaking out little chat rooms on Zoom and being able to work with students in smaller groups, holding office hours on Zoom. Even though we are remote, we are not distant. And I think faculty have discovered that there are some things that they can do very easily. Some of our faculty have managed this fall semester, the first session of it, which is just ending, really well. They're just rock stars. They figured out how to take what it was they were looking for in terms of learning outcomes with the students, and to make it fit well into 7.5 weeks. Others have struggled a little bit more. It's a lot, especially if you've never taught in an abbreviated format. It's a different way of learning, and our faculty are learning that too. Even with the switch also to a new learning management system, which is a challenge in itself, they figured out how to be able to engage students in chat boards and in group work and in interactions with each other as well as with the faculty member online. And I think these are some things that will allow us to enhance what we do in the future, even when we are back more face-to-face, because it provides additional opportunities for conversation and discussion and consideration of the course materials. And I think that that's going to be something that sticks with us for a long time.
Yeah, there's a silver lining in this that I think we're discovering. My next question related to the impact of the pandemic is for you, President Fetrow. There has been a lot of talk in the news media around the survivability of colleges, especially small liberal arts colleges like Albright. How has the pandemic affected the college financially?
That's a great question, and I know this has been significantly in the media, as liberal arts colleges like Albright have been under financial stress for some time now. Of course, Albright is one of those, and we have worked very hard to shift the financial model for Albright to one of sustainability. And with the changes that we had made, focusing on increasing and enhancing revenue sources, last January and February, we were beginning to see the fruits of our labor. And then the pandemic comes along like a punch in the gut. Of course, we saw the loss of room and board revenue starting from March to the end of the semester, when Governor Wolf required that we send most of our students home. We did choose, not all colleges did, but we thought it was the right thing to do to rebate the pro rata room and board, which we did. So we lost that revenue in the spring. That was a pretty significant hit. It was partially mitigated by the fact that we won an SBA, Small Business Association PPP. Initially, it was a loan, which allowed us the focus of those, a grant from the federal government that allowed us to retain our employees. I'm proud of the fact that we have not had to, and I do not anticipate yet that we will unless something significant changes. We've not yet had to furlough or lay off any of our employees. So that's a positive for us. We've also seen increased financial stresses for things like faculty development, as Karen said. We've brought in significant faculty development training, both for technology and for the shortened way of learning. We've had to bring in technology, things like Zoom licenses, things you wouldn't imagine under the covers. A number of facilities expenses have increased for maintaining the safety of our community. All of these things we are building into our budget and our financial model. We are looking at all sources of grants and possible ways to support these increased expenses. This work is ongoing, and I have every confidence with our CFO, Jeff Strader, the cabinet, and the entire Albright community working together that we will achieve this. I want to mention one final thing, and that is, it's not just Albright that is feeling the financial stress of the pandemic, it is also our students. Many of our students, their families have been financially impacted, with parents who have been terminated or laid off, or the students themselves have been laid off from jobs, and we are seeing increased financial needs of our students, which we are working to figure out how we can mitigate. again, supporting our goal of student success. So the pandemic is a financial stress, and I have every confidence that we have a team here at Albright College, and with some donor support, that's going to help us get through this economic and financial time.
Thank you so much. Just moving to another institutional priority. We all know that developing and supporting a thriving, equitable, and empowered community is one of our top priorities. Soon after President Fetro's arrival, she established a group of faculty, staff, and students to form a committee affectionately known here at Albright as SITE-C, the Council for an Inclusive, Thriving, and Equitable Community. Given the national conversations going on right now regarding racial and economic inequities in our society, I'd like to ask you, President Fetro, to talk about some of the important work that SITE-C has been doing and how the college is addressing issues of racial and social injustice.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm happy to do so. This is a goal that is near and dear to my heart. We established, my first year, we established 5 institutional priorities. The first one of those was a goal of creating a thriving, inclusive, equitable, and fully participating community across all of our campus constituents. SITE-C has worked with me to work towards that goal by increasing events, conversations, reading groups, discussions, really bringing the issues, the many issues around equity and inclusivity to the forefront. That has increased the awareness on our campus. It has increased the conversations even before this year's racial tensions and some of the protests we are seeing. I think most significantly last year, Albright was successful in going through the hard conversations to develop an inclusivity statement and an expression statement. Both of these statements went through iterations and iterations of conversation with students, faculty, staff, and trustees, as well as alumni board members, and culminated, including, I would say, editing on the floor of the faculty meeting. These culminated in February with both the college faculty and the Board of Trustees fully endorsing both statements. That puts us a little bit ahead of many colleges because we are very clear on our shared understanding, and we are very clear on the shared understanding that we can use now to change policy, to change practice, and to work when students or faculty or staff have questions. We can use this shared understanding to establish practice. This year, for the first time, we have established college annual goals. This was done in a retreat by the cabinet in June. Those goals are published for the college community. The first one of those is to instill in the community, begin to instill in the community a commitment and a practice directed towards that inclusivity statement and that expression statement. As it is now a published college goal, it's become my goal. Each cabinet member has created a goal around that college level goal, and we are expecting that each division and department will also create annual goals around that particular goal. I would say that I am very gratified over the 3 years here. There's been a significant increase in the number of people who are beginning to understand and engage actively in this really important work.
It truly is an institutional priority at Albright. I will say that, absolutely. Our final question before we open it up to questions from our guest today is for you, Dr. Campbell. President Council members play a critical role in supporting Albright College. Can you share an example of how the support of our President Council members has directly impacted our academic programs, student and faculty?
Oh, certainly. The easiest example is our ACRE program, our Albright Creative Research Experience. When I started at Albright back in the dark ages, the way that I got students to be able to stay and do summer research work with me was to get them jobs on campus. They often worked in the dining hall or jobs locally because we had no way of supporting them, but at least, and we do bat work at night, so they could work in the daytime and go and do research. And that was rough. I mean, it was just, our students have always had a need to be able to support themselves. And so having a research program that's active, especially over the summer months when faculty have more time, is difficult for students. So the ACRE program was established and has been very well supported by the President's Council members so that students can receive summer stipends and housing and room and board on campus to be able to stay with faculty to do research. Even this past summer when we didn't have students housed on campus, we did have students engaged in ACRE research with faculty. So they were able to devote time over the summer rather than having summer jobs to be able to advance. And so students have created so many great things through the ACRE program in terms of projects ranging from biochemistry to fashion to sociology to religious studies. And they've been able to be engaged in the field and to be able to understand what it's like to be really engaged in research. And that's directly tied to the support of the President's Council members because they're able to receive stipends to be engaged in that work, even as students.
That makes a huge difference. Thank you so much, Karen. Now we'd like to open the floor with questions from our guests. Again, if you have a question and you haven't posted it yet, please go ahead and click on the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and you can type in your question there. Thank you. Our first question submitted by our audience member concerns the library. In October 2019, the Greenwich Library and Administration Building was closed due to the deterioration of the building facade. President Fetro, can you tell us about the plans for the library and then talk about what Albright's plan is to address other buildings exteriors such as Masters Hall?
Absolutely, I'm happy to do this. And I very much appreciate the attendee who submitted this question. The library must be the central academic heart of our campus. And it must be a place that welcomes students, faculty, and staff, and members of our community to study together, to learn together. Sadly, last fall, we learned that the exterior, the facade of the Gingrich Library had deteriorated to the point that it had become a danger to the community. And we took the choice to put safety first, and we closed the building. That's a very difficult thing to do on a liberal arts college campus, but we did it. We now have a micro library where many, if not most, of the often used materials in the library are available for students, faculty, and staff. That is located in the Center for Computing and Math. We opened up other buildings on campus to make sure students had places to study. One of the things that we learned about closing the library is how much our students used the library to study and to gather. And then the most important thing was we needed to move quickly to plan the replacement of the library. So over this past year, we have done significant work, though you can't tell yet, we have done significant work. The first, and I'll go over it really quickly because you can see this, there's a summary webpage that you can go take a look at. The library vision team, under my leadership and Karen's leadership, Provost Campbell's leadership, have created a space plan for the library that includes both the academic learning commons, that'll be our complete focus for student success, including our ELCDC, the Career Development Center. We're creating a complete writing center and writing program, which will move some of the writing faculty as well as the writing tutors and coaches and staff that support writing to the third floor of the newly envisioned library. And the second floor of the library we are envisioning is a history and cultural center. That will include the Lake and Holocaust collection, the Central Pennsylvania African American collection, our own Albright archives, as well as what I learned is we have a local history, the Nolan Local History Collection. So this is going to be the center for history and culture. And in really great way, we are able to move the history faculty to that floor as well. There appears to be sufficient space to do that. We'll have a new testing center. We will have study spaces. We will have seminar rooms and a technology lab. So the space planning was done this year. The library staff have done a significant job in figuring out what are the collection we need to keep, what can go in storage, and what needs to come back into an active library. And that work is ongoing. Finally, facilities, something that had not been done before. We had to figure out if we're gonna renovate the building, we're gonna have to move all the books out. So where are we gonna put those books during the renovation? And then where are we gonna keep those books that we need to keep, but which aren't gonna be moved back into the active library? And the facilities team identified 3 possible solutions for that, and we are currently running down one of those solutions. What is ongoing right now is we have the request for proposals, an RFP, out to 10 firms to engage in the first level of architectural and engineering studies. This will help us to understand if the space plan is possible and if there are any details of structure or engineering or codes that we are not yet aware of. What we know is from the deep structural engineering is that the bones of the building are sound. We will take the facade off. We will rebuild a beautiful facade on that building, and we will completely renovate the interior to be the central beating heart. The question is absolutely right. What do we do with the deteriorating facades? I have terminated, we had a contract with an outside firm for maintaining facilities, and the facade of the library had deteriorated as had other buildings under that leadership. I have terminated that contract, and we have a completely new management group in facilities that is Albright's own management team, and they have already and are working to fully develop a plan for much more fully maintaining. It's not just the facades, it was the roofs, and it was some of our interior systems. And the facilities team is creating a plan that will allow us year over year to know exactly what we need to do to maintain our buildings and their infrastructure.
That's terrific. Thank you so much. We have a few questions on athletics. What will athletics look like at Albright for the rest of the academic year?
Oh, that's a really great question. And I have to say, it really is going to depend upon, we are subject to the NCAA, and we are subject to our athletic conference, the Division III MAC, and what they decide. So for example, the NCAA did not specify whether teams could compete or not for the fall. But what they did say is there was a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 return to sport that we all had to follow. And if we did compete, we had to follow these guidelines. And the guidelines included significant testing and things that D3 schools really didn't have the wherewithal to address. So we, the MAC, chose, both for the safety of our students and because of the financial constraints, not to compete this year. However, most of us, including Albright, have created additional training facilities. The teams are allowed to practice within the return to sport that the NCAA has identified. The NCAA is starting to come out with their guidelines for winter sports, including basketball. Currently, what it appears is that one of those guidelines will be testing about 3 times a week, which may also put that expense out of the market for small Division III colleges, but we'll see. From the NCAA guidelines, the MAC will make their decisions about what the entire conference will do, and then Albright will work within the constraints that the NCAA and the MAC provide. What I can say is, and we are all very, this is a hard time for our student athletes because this is their sport, and we are doing everything that we can to help them do their sport and participate, even though they are not allowed to actively compete.
Thank you. Here's a question for you, Dr. Campbell. How has the college pivoted to accommodate classes such as lab sciences that don't easily allow for online learning? Are students doing some labs at home?
Chemistry kitchen? No, it depends. Actually, our foundations natural sciences courses, so the lab science for non-science majors does actually include an online course, which is the chemistry of cooking, and that's active this semester. The science classes and the fine arts studios are the main classes that are on campus in a hybrid fashion, where the lectures of the classes are typically delivered online. But the science and the arts faculty have figured out how to space the students within the labs so that they can successfully participate in laboratory activities. This means having multiple sections. And again, with the accelerated pace, it means that faculty are prepping for multiple labs each week, because of course, faculty prep their own labs. And so this has been a challenge, but they're making it work for the students. So we have labs that only accommodate 10 students at the most. And some have fewer. And the studio, we got lucky with some of the studio arts because there was only one section of painting, for example. And so those are the only students using that space. And so although they're in there multiple times a week, they can be there, they can be safely spaced, they can be able to participate in the hands-on activities that are so important in those areas. So it's been kind of a balance, but it's a challenge.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this may be another question for you. What do you think will be the long-term impact of current remote teaching and interacting with student practices? Will more students be able to learn, attend classes remotely even after COVID does not necessitate it?
Well, that's a tough one, because as I said, I mean, most of the faculty who came to Albright come to have that one-on-one interaction, which even though they make it work successfully online, I think they're going to want to be back in the classroom and back face-to-face. But we have seen a recent increase, even pre-COVID, in summer courses that are offered online, again, because it's easier for students to be able to be at home, but to be enrolled in courses. And our January term, much to President Fetro's dismay, has become a lot more online, again, because it's easier for students to be at home, to be able to be engaged. And so I think there will be more faculty that have successfully developed online courses that will keep them in the mix. Whether or not it becomes part of our traditional day curriculum, that's really a decision of the faculty. And we'll leave it up to them. I think it provides some flexibility for students that we might like to have available, but that'll be post-COVID discussion, I think.
Thank you. Here's another question from one of our guests. How were the September student enrollment results versus anticipated numbers? Did you attract local students who decided to stay local rather than attend a distant university?
That's a great question, and I thank Michael for putting it forward. So Albright College was one of less than 50%, I think close to 40%, only 40% of schools in the country exceeded their enrollment, either met or exceeded the enrollment they had last year, and Albright was one of those, and we were very proud of that. We did not meet our goal because our goal was a little more aspirational than that. But in fact, we are very proud of being one than less than half of the colleges in the country that actually exceeded last year's goals. And you ask a great question, did we attract local students? I don't know if it's because they decided to stay local. We can draw that correlation, but we did attract more students from Berks County than we had previously. We had also made a significant effort to recruit from Berks County. So there's a little bit of a confounding parameter there. But we did see significant increases in enrollment from students from Berks County, and we want to continue to maintain that going forward. Great question.
Thank you. And here's one question on philanthropy. How can folks who don't have deep pockets support the educational mission of Albright?
That's a great question, and I appreciate that. I would answer that by saying every small donation helps. For example, the Lifting Up Lions initiative that Dr. Wessner spoke about, you can donate to that online, and no dollar amount is too small, because when students come and say they need a book, that fund can be used to support it. What we are attempting to do, and Wendy is doing a great job at leading this, is to develop funding and so initiatives that are supportable at every level of giving. So smaller gifts to larger gifts, but I will say no gift is too small. And we have initiatives at every level of giving. And I want to thank everybody who supports Albright College in those ways.
Absolutely. Just echo that every gift matters. Sam, I neglected to give you a chance just to respond to the question on athletics. I know that you're involved on a national board with athletics.
Thank you, Wendy. Yeah, I'd like to share that in May, our medical team at Albright College, in addition to one of our professors, our professor of virology, was asked to speak at the athletic director's annual meeting. And it was a wonderful opportunity for Albright to really shine in that venue and be able to speak about all the great planning that we've been doing. As a result of that, I was asked to sit on the MAC advisory board, and I've joined that group since its inception, and that's a group that looks specifically at providing recommendations to what the MAC D3 schools believe that they can do to keep our students healthy and safe when it comes to athletics. So it's important. I serve as the medical advisor to that board, and it's really a great opportunity to get our voices heard, because our team has looked so closely at how we can do this, understanding that our athletes want to practice, they want to play, they want to be involved in their sport. It helps their well-being, it helps them to stay active, it helps them to stay engaged with their classes, and it's important for them. So we needed to be able to have a voice at that table so that we could prove to the MAC that we can do this in a safe and healthy way. So I think it's real important to share that. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. And just Karen, just one final question here. What are the plans for the spring semester?
Well, we have put together a plan that keeps the students taking 2 classes at a time, with the addition of sort of an extended interim semester. So it's like a combination of things. Many faculty don't like to teach in the interim because it's so short. So we've expanded the January interim to a 6-week session, which is twice the size or twice the length that it normally is. Hoping that faculty also can take some of the pressure off of themselves by offering, typically faculty teach 3 classes a semester, and that they could teach 1 in the January term, 1 in the first 7.5-week session, and 1 in the second 7.5-week session, so that they can kind of get a break as well, and that it provides some flexibility for students to be able to take classes both in the January and in the spring semesters. We still feel that having students only engaged in 2 classes at a time minimizes their exposure to other students and to faculty, and so we're sticking with the 7.5-week blocks. So moving forward, and we're looking at how to make things better for faculty and students. The faculty are learning that, and so are the students in this first 7.5-week session. So I expect even fall 2 to be just a little bit easier, because people kind of get it a little bit more. But then moving into the January and the 2 spring terms, we'll continue to support faculty development, focusing on the pedagogy rather than the technology a little bit more. We'll continue to support student work in those times, but we're continuing with the 7.5-week blocks.
Terrific, thank you. I know there was a question on testing. Do we have time to answer that question, President Vetro or Dr. Westner?
Yeah, let me take 1 minute, and then Sam will take 1 minute, and then we will come to the end of our time. We have considered pooled COVID testing and testing waste streams. We've decided an alternative path that is a very small true or false positive, false negative. What is really great about this, though, is both in the athletic conference and in our professional organization of Pennsylvania Liberal Arts Colleges, different schools chose different paths for this semester. There is a school, Susquehanna, that's doing testing the waste streams. That's the path that they chose. A couple of schools are doing pooled COVID testing. So we're actually going to be able to compare towards the end of the fall semester both price and outcome. The path that our pandemic team and then Sam recommended to me was a different path. And Sam, you want to take that real quick?
Sure. We decided, knowing a lot about where our students come from and what is feasible for them, we decided that we would test symptomatic cases, and that is what we've been doing actually. And then with the added outreach of all for the contact tracing. And we have a really great relationship with one of our local labs in which we are able to turn around testing within a 24-hour time frame. Most of the time it's even quicker than 24 hours. But starting within the next week or two, we're going to be adding testing in which we're running the tests in the health center. So currently we're sending them out, 24-hour turnaround time, but in the next 2 weeks, we'll be running those tests. And the students have been great in terms of, we've implemented the Healthy Together app. So we've asked the students to run through the app on a daily basis, and the app actually indicates whether or not someone needs a test. So our students, faculty, and staff have been engaged in the Healthy Together app, and the students are great about calling the health center and saying, hey, my app's saying I need a test today. I need to come in and get a test. So I'm happy with the path that we've chosen, and I believe it's working out quite well for us. Thank you.
Terrific. Now, finally, before we conclude, we have a very special message for you from one of our students from the class of 2020. Autumn Blaylock graduated in May and recorded this message in the spring, shortly after classes moved online due to the pandemic. So if you could just stay on for just one more minute, I know you're going to enjoy this. Special message from our students.
My name is Autumn, and I'm a senior psychology and theater co-major at Albright College, and I am a Lion. I'm super excited to talk to you about the place that's been my home for the last 4 years. You'll hear a lot of people mention how Albright is a community-oriented school, and they're right, but Albright's more than that to me. Albright's my family. The people here look out for you, especially in difficult times like these. Prime example, we have to finish this semester virtually, and I was having a hard time because my laptop was breaking down. I told my professor, who told the dean, who got a team of people, and a week later, I was opening a box with a laptop I could use to finish the semester. I can't imagine that happening anywhere but Albright.
So before we say goodbye, are there any final words from our college leaders for our guests today?
I would just like to start by saying thank you. Thank you for attending today, for asking really great questions, and for, as President's Council members, supporting Albright College. Your commitment to the college with your time, with supporting our programs and our students, and with your attention, like attending this and asking great questions, it matters to our success. We will be successful in reaching our 2030 goal, and part of that success will be due to support from donors and alumni like you. So thank you.
I would also just like to say thank you. You are what helped make us Lions, and that's so important to us and to our students and to the students who have yet to come to Albright.
Thank you as well. Today was a wonderful day with a lot of great opportunities for you to learn about the wonderful things we're doing. We have a lot going on right now and a lot for us to be proud of. Stay connected with us, and thank you for all that you do for us.
Yes, I just want to echo thank you for being with us today, and most importantly, thank you for your generosity, commitment, and tremendous support of Albright College. We are very grateful, as you know, and we wish you all the very best of health and happiness. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we're going to say goodbye for now.